welcome back to Uncorked, a podcast where we get raw and real, all while under the influence. We are your host. I am Maddison.
And I am Katie. Thank you guys for joining us. I just wanted to say thank you for all of our listeners, all of the new listeners, if you haven't already. But we're on all podcast platforms, so go ahead and check us out. Before we get started with today's topic, we're going to go ahead and uncork a bottle of wine that we have. So today we have the 19 Crimes, the Uprising. So it has a dead guy on the bottle that did a lot of bad shit. So it is, let me see here. It's from Australia, a full and round on the palate with a distinct sweetness, making the wine rich and mouth coating. The palate has a long, rich, plush finish filled with jammy, blackberry, and raspberry flavors.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about setting boundaries within relationships. I chose this topic because it's hard to please everyone, and you have to learn kind of how to make yourself happy first and realize that you have to fill your own bucket before you can give to other people.
For sure. I know over the years I've had a lot of issues just saying no to people in general, and I don't want to ever make them feel awkward or weird, and doing so I hurt myself in the process, because if it's not something that I don't want to do or I don't feel comfortable with, why am I even doing that? So
right.
That's been tough for sure.
Yeah, it's hard finding the balance between pleasing yourself but also getting outside of your comfort zone sometimes.
Yeah.
To make yourself happy, and because you never really know, sometimes you need to get out of your comfort zone. So, but that's what we're talking about, just learning how to find that balance.
Yep. Okay. So, do you have a problem saying no? And if so, who is the hardest to say no to, Maddie?
I think the hardest to say no to is probably just family.
Mm-hmm.
And probably your closest friends, my best friends maybe sometimes. But I think family's the hardest because you never want to make your family upset or not do something with your family.
Go against the family.
Yeah, so that's probably the hardest to say no to. But sometimes you just have to realize that just because they're your family doesn't mean that they're always what's best.
Right. That's what has been for me too, is definitely family. Sometimes it just depends on what it is. I have a hard time saying no to Nick if he really, really wants something, or I'll be yeah, just go ahead and get it. But I'm we're also trying to save money, mm-hmm. and we have goals and aspirations of what we want to do. So yeah.
Do you ever feel pressured by certain people to do something and kind of scared to say no?
Yes. Growing up, I think I've always just people pleased, especially my family. I did whatever they wanted and what made them feel the most comfortable. And doing that, I don't know. I've damaged myself a lot doing that. So I've had to kind of put those boundaries in place so that they kind of learn over time. I do have boundaries. I do need this.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it is kind of hard. You feel pressure, oh, I'm your mom, so you have to do what I want to do. Or, I'm your sibling, so you have to listen to me. Or
mm-hmm.
when people say stuff like that, you kind of feel guilty, or you feel pressured, oh, you know what, she was my mom, or that is my boyfriend, or I have to do what they say. But at the same time, you don't, because you have to realize it's your own life, and they're not the ones living
mm-hmm.
or feeling the way you feel.
Yep. Why do you think boundaries are important?
I think it's important because you can only give so much, and you can't you don't want to change who you are to fit what other people want.
Yeah.
Or you can't change the type of friend that you are, the type of person you are, just to fit in.
Yeah.
Or fit in with you really want to be friends with this person, so you just do whatever they want, and you go with them, and you go party with them, or you go do this, but then you go home and you just feel miserable.
Right. Why did I even do that?
Yeah.
All right. Has it ever been hard to set your boundaries? Or like, what was the hardest boundary you ever had to set?
I don't know if I've ever had like a hardest boundary, but it's definitely hard just to like realize like I need to stop doing this, or I need to set boundaries. And then just realizing like when other people set boundaries or something, like not taking it so personally, because it is hard when other people, like, we set boundaries on other people, but other people may set boundaries on us.
Yeah.
So we need to like take that into consideration and remember like that's probably they're doing what's best for them.
Right. And it is hard to look at that too, because I know I've had people that be like, oh, I just need space, and literally they probably just need space, but sometimes we don't take it like that. So just know that it's not ever really an attack on you. Like, it's just what that person needs to do.
In the moment that we're like, that they're just being mean and that they don't want to be our friend anymore.
They don't love us.
Stuff. Yeah.
But yeah. And I think that's especially hard with moms too. Like, I don't want this happening with my kids. I don't want my kids doing this. And it's hard to do that, to say that, and then just making sure that that does happen. So, yeah. Things that we usually do when something is requested of us, and then if we want to say no, but it's hard to. The first thing that we usually do is accommodate. So we say yes when we really want to say no. This brings us a temporary false sense of peace, later to be replaced with apprehension and resentment. We defer to the relationship with no regard for our power, and ironically, end up undermining the relationship in the long run.
I think that's important, like, with friends and relationships. You just always, like, and it is hard if you're, like, a people pleaser, or, like if you know your Enneagram or whatever, like, I think, like, Enneagrams 2 or something are really, like, they just do what other people, like, they just do what pleases everyone else. They just, like, follow. They're like, yep, sounds good. But then in their head, they're like, I really don't want to go eat there, or I really don't want to go out, or I really don't want to do this. So you do it, and you may have some fun and stuff, but then you get home and you're like, wow, I really don't want to do that. Like, I don't feel any enjoyment or anything from that.
Yeah, and you think that making the other person happy is going to make you happy, but it doesn't. You're just like, oh my God.
It may be like a short-term happiness.
Yes, definitely. The second thing that we usually do is attack. We often do this with those we love the most, the ones we take for granted. We say no aggressively, stepping strongly into our power, but with no regard or attention to the connection with the other person.
I think that happens a lot with friends. Like, I see myself doing that a lot with friends or something. Like, if someone says, hey, do you want to go out to this place, or do you want to go out to this bar, or do you want to go eat lunch or whatever, but you're like having a bad day, or you're just like in a mood or something, and then
like, no,
and then you literally just like go off and you're like, no, I don't want to do anything, and then they're like, well, like, whoa, like, I was just asking you to hang out, like, and sometimes they'll be like, well, we don't have to go there, like, that was just an option, but I take that as like that's where they want to go and they don't want to go anywhere else or something.
Right.
So then you're
just like overthink it.
Yeah. So then you just blow up.
Yeah, that happens. Third thing that we usually do when we want to say no is just avoid. We don't prioritize our personal power or the relationship. In other words, everybody loses. We just honor ourselves and amp up our own discomfort by leaving something unresolved, and disrespect the other person by not providing them with an answer. But yeah, I know I am super bad at this. I just like don't like confrontation whatsoever. And like, I have all these thoughts that I want to say and like tell that person, but I don't know necessarily how to put it into words sometimes. And I also feel like if I do say no, or if I do say like, hey, I don't want to go do this, that it's just gonna like create a whole new thing.
A whole thing, yeah.
So I just like, I'm like, nope, I'm just not gonna say anything. Just keep
I'm
it
really
on the
good. I never avoid, but sometimes it's like I should avoid, because sometimes I just immediately respond, or I immediately say like, hey, what's the issue? Or
just like pop
hey,
off.
yeah. But sometimes I should just like take a day or so and not respond, or
Yeah.
but so I gotta work on that.
So it's important to be able to say no so you feel empowered while still maintaining your relationships with others. Saying no helps you establish healthy boundaries and enables others to have clarity about what they can expect from you. So, yeah. We're going to go into how boundaries can help you guys and how important it is to set boundaries, and also the different types of boundaries, because there's like literally a million different boundary types. But the definition of a boundary is a line that marks the limit of an area, a dividing line. So you're just like letting them know, like, this is what's happening. Boundaries are what happen when you can sense yourself and what you need and want, and access your voice to speak to those things. We all have limits, and we all experience violations of our limits. Most of the time, people are not trying to violate your limits. They just aren't aware of what they are. This is because we are not clear with ourselves or other people about what we want or need. And then the advantages. Go ahead.
The advantages of healthy boundaries are influence others' behaviors. So maybe like other people will just see what you're doing and say, you know what, like I should take the idea. Follow, and we all don't have to hang out every night, or we all don't have to do, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Developed identity. Developed
autonomy.
Yeah, okay.
Well, there's just like,
what is that?
It's just like realizing who you are for yourself.
Okay.
Autonomy.
That's how I was gonna say it, but it's fine. We're just out here living our life. It's fine. Okay, avoidance of burnout. That is a huge one, I think, because sometimes you can go on like really long spans of hanging out with like a group of people every weekend or every night or whatever, and then all of a sudden you're like feeling exhausted, kind of, and you're like, but why am I feeling so exhausted? Like, I'm hanging out with my best friends and I'm doing all the things that I think are fun, but then you're like, oh wait, like I need to take a day just to hang out by myself, or like just have some like me time or something. And another advantage is good mental health. This is great because you can only put so much of yourself like towards someone else. Like, you need to realize, like, maybe doing something, going out partying or going out with certain people that you think are your friends or that you want to be a friend, like they may have a bad impact on your mental health, and they may be taking, like, you may just not be happy and you may feel like just drained. Great emotional health. That's awesome with friends, I think, and with relationships. You have to realize, like, it's a give and take. Like, I can accommodate you, but also you need to accommodate me, and then we can both be like on a good mental, emotional, like, stable part of our life.
Yeah, and just knowing what you're feeling, because sometimes you just have all these feelings and you don't exactly know what they are or what to do with them. And being a mom, I'm like trying to teach him and her like how they're feeling. So if they're crying, I'm like, I know you're sad, but like let's get through this. We're gonna be okay. And just like know to tell them how they are feeling, so they know what those feelings are.
Yeah.
So yeah. Before we move on to the different types of boundaries, please make sure to go ahead and subscribe, like our video, or share this podcast with your friends. Join our group on Facebook, Uncorked, to stay updated and connected with us. So thank you, guys. Types of boundaries. Do you want to go ahead and start with the first one?
Physical boundaries. Physical boundaries include your needs of personal space, your comfort with touch, your physical needs like rest, eating, drinking, food. So those would be things like maybe not hanging out with someone every single night, or not forcing yourself to go to lunch with your friends, or just realizing, like, you know what, I need this day to myself and just to get some sleep and to do things that you feel that you need.
It's also like, I'm not a hug person, and when people like go up to hug me, I'm almost like put my arms in.
I hate
like,
physical touch.
Don't fucking touch me.
I hate touch. Yeah, I'm the same. Like, I like holding hands and stuff, but yeah, I'm not a big, like, just don't touch me. And if I don't know you that well, you gotta stay away.
Right. And I'm bad with...
But sometimes people need that, and sometimes people love that stuff.
Right. And you kind of do have to tell them, like, I don't like hugs. I don't like being touched. With
Instead
Nick,
of, like, awkwardly taking it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's just so weird when that happens. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. But with Nick, sometimes I'll just be like, I don't really want to be touched today, you know, babe? I love you, but I just don't want to be touched.
Don't touch me.
Yeah. And then there's other days where I just, you know, I'm cool with that. It is okay to let people know that you don't want to be touched or that you need more space. It is also okay to say that you are hungry or that you need to rest. So examples would be like, I'm not a hugger. I can give you a handshake or a high five, dude. Or like, don't go into my room without asking first. Also, like, I'm allergic to, say, like milk or nuts, so we cannot have that here. Physical boundaries violations feel like receiving inappropriate or unwanted touch, being denied your physical needs. So, and if that happens, you do feel like super bad.
Yeah.
But you gotta let them know. Otherwise, they're just gonna keep doing it.
Right. Another one is emotional boundaries. These are all about respecting and honoring feelings and energy. Setting emotional boundaries means recognizing how much emotional energy you are capable of taking in, or knowing how much you are capable of sharing to other people. Respecting emotional boundaries means validating the feelings of others, but making sure you also respect and your ability to take in emotional information from each other.
Yeah. And we talked about that a little bit in our first podcast. Just like, don't unload on a person if they're not totally ready for that.
Right. Because everyone handles emotions differently. Like some people shut down, some people overshare. There are people who just literally like, oh, we get along, so I'm just going to tell you my whole life story.
Yeah.
The other people are like really turned off by that and are like, whoa, like I don't even know you. Like that's, that's way too much for me to comprehend. So just realizing like your own emotional boundaries, because some people need to share. So finding the right people or the right outlets to share, but also realizing like don't share with everyone, because not everyone needs to know and not everyone wants to know. Yeah.
Everybody's got their own things going on. So just make sure that you ask or just tell them like, hey, like I'm cool with knowing this, or like now's not the right time. Or like, hey, let's get to know each other a little bit better before we do this.
I think it's like too, for like friends to realize, and it is hard. Like I know that I've experienced it. If someone like goes through a breakup or goes through something, like we need to realize like there's triggers for them. And so like as friends, we need to realize those boundaries and remember like to not bring certain stuff up or not talk about certain things, or because it can trigger them and they're not going to let us know because they're like, oh, that's my friend, like I'm not going to, but in the inside it's bothering them or making them upset. So I think as friends it's good to know those boundaries, but also like let your friends know like, hey, like,
I just don't want to talk about this.
Yeah, like, hey, can you please not bring these topics up? And then we'll be like, cool, like we're really sorry that hurt you, we'll move on, like we won't bring that up. So I think that's really important to have conversation about.
Emotional boundary violations include dismissing someone's feelings, sharing inappropriate emotional information with your children, or telling other people how they feel. So if you're like, oh, well, you feel sad about this, and
I didn't even realize the emotional information with your children part. That is so important.
Yeah.
There's certain things that kids should not know, and I get it. Parents want to be like, oh, I'm really open with my children and we communicate about everything and we have an open relationship. But also like you're the adult and they're the child. They shouldn't know about all the issues. They shouldn't know about everything that you are dealing with and all your phone calls and all your texts and all your boyfriends and all your this and all your that. There needs to be a boundary, because then those kids are going to grow up with some issues.
Right. Like they never needed to know that.
Yeah.
Especially with like co-parenting or like divorced parents,
When
and
they
they're
talk
like
about
talking
each other.
shit about each
Yeah.
other to that child. That's fucking damaging as shit.
Yeah, that's the worst.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like, that happened to me when my mom and stepdad were, like, getting divorced and stuff. They would just talk about each other to us, and we would just have to be like, please stop it. Like, don't talk about. Or, like, if my mom and my uncle would have problems or something, like, me and my uncle have said, like, we just don't talk about her. Like, we talk about our own lives, and our relationship has been great because we just talk about our relationship. We don't talk about their relationship because it's not important to me.
Right. Yep. All right. The next one is time boundaries. So setting time boundaries means understanding your priorities and setting aside enough time for the many areas of your life without overcommitting. So examples would be like, we have family time on Sundays, so I can't make it. Or I would love to help, but I would be overcommitting myself. Is there another time? So just make sure you make time for yourself and make time for the things that are really important. Violated time boundaries looks like asking professionals for their time without paying them, demanding time from people, keeping people in conversations or on tasks for longer than we told them we would, showing up late or canceling on people because we overcommitted, and contacting people when they said they would be unavailable.
I think that's hard. Like, I always overcommit myself. Not like with friends and stuff, but I always, ever since I graduated high school and I was in college, I always took way too many classes and worked way too many hours.
Spreading yourself
And
thin.
I've always been like that, and I guess I started working as soon as like at 14 or 15, whenever you get a working permit. And I just always did, and I always played multiple sports. Like, I always did way too much. So I think as I was growing up, I was just like, wow, I have so much free time. Like, let me fill it with stuff. But now I'm like, wow, I do so much. Like, I need to not.
Yeah, that's how I feel with, like, weekends. I, like, put so much stuff to do in the weekends.
I think, yeah.
And, like, overexert myself. And then I don't have time to, like, clean the house or, like, do weird little scheduling things, or I don't know. It just can be difficult for sure.
Because you just try and cram everything into those, like, 2 days.
Yeah.
But really, it would probably be a good idea to do, like, a short list every day when you go home from work. Like, on Mondays, you vacuum and you clean the bathrooms. And Tuesdays, you meal prep and you do this. Or, you know, you make, like, a little list. And then the weekends may not be that as bad.
Right.
So try and, like, just schedule yourself more. But also, like, block out a chunk of time and say, on Friday night from 6 to 8, I'm watching a movie and having
Just
a face
chilling out.
mask and doing what I want.
Oh, yeah. Sexual boundaries is the next one. Healthy sexual boundaries include consent, agreement, respect, and understanding of preferences and desires, and privacy. So examples would be asking for consent, discussing contraception, or saying no to things that you don't like or hurt you. Violations include sulking when someone says no, unwanted touch, assault or rape, or unwanted sexual comments. This was like huge.
Yeah.
Every time we go out, there's somebody.
There's someone wanting to touch us or look at us, and you just feel disgusted. You're like, get away from me. But I think it's important, like, when we all go out as a group, like, we all know, like, to, like, watch out for each other too, and, like, remember, like, we all have boundaries with that topic and stuff. So just, like, watching out for your friends, or even with a partner, like, knowing like, I may not want to do that all the time. I may not want to do that every night. Like, I may not even just want you to touch me. Like,
right.
You know, like, I may just be in a bad mood, or not even in a bad mood. I just want you to sit on the other side of the couch and we can eat dinner and we can be fine. But just respect that and just don't keep nagging. Right. I think that's a big thing for, like, relationships. Like, if I said, no, I'm not in the mood tonight, don't keep nagging me, because then it's just annoying and you're you're going to make me mad. So stop nagging. Just respect that we say no and move on.
Yep. The next one is intellectual boundaries. So healthy intellectual boundaries include respect for the ideas of other people, and they can be violated when your thoughts and curiosity are shut down, dismissed, or belittled. Respectfulness and willingness to dialogue and understand are important here. Examples like, I know we disagree, but I won't let you belittle me like that. Or, I would love to talk about this more, but talking about it at Thanksgiving dinner is not the best time.
That is a good topic because, especially with like this whole year of like all the politics and all the issues and all the COVID, and some people agree and some people don't agree, and some people like the vaccine and some people don't. Like I know for my family, we all don't agree on the same topics.
Yeah.
And so when we have family dinners or
somehow it
always gets brought up, and then everyone ends up shitty and leaving and attitudes, and then people are like, oh, well, I'm never coming again, or oh, you know, I'm just gonna stop talking, or oh, whatever. But like, just learn how to like respect everyone's beliefs and everyone's decisions, and how people raise their kids are different, and how people like live in their homes are different, and like just respecting everything, and just saying like, we can disagree, we don't live in the same house, we don't, you know, we don't pay each other's bills, we don't
have the same perspective as you.
So like, you just have to say, you know what, I understand your opinion, and you know, you may be right in some aspects, but I believe the way I believe, and move on.
Yep, definitely. And we talked about this a little bit too, but just making sure that you can listen to the other person without thinking about what you're going to say next. All right. Material boundaries refers to your possessions, including equipment, vehicles, your home, etc. It is healthy to understand what you can and cannot share, and how you expect your items and materials to be treated by the people you share them with. Examples: we cannot give you any more money, we would be happy to help in another way. Or, you can borrow that, but I need it back by this Friday. So yeah.
So I know like with this, like me and TJ have already had the conversation like with family, unless it's like a dire need and you're gonna be like homeless, we're not loaning money unless you come with me with like a serious issue and we sign a paper that says you pay me back by this date, and we both sign that paper. Other than that, like, we're not loaning, because my family has had problems with that in the past. Like, certain people in my family would borrow money from others, or like when you need money, which is, you know, you're supposed to reach out to your family when you need things, but then people take advantage of that, and then it just ruins relationships.
Yeah.
Because then people get greedy, or people think they're entitled, or that they need this, and like, oh, I deserve this money. But like, you don't. You really don't.
Right. And I know that like we've borrowed from people in the past if we're going through something tough or we need to get something done, but we have made sure to like pay everything back.
I borrowed from my mom. I think I borrowed like my first down payment on my very first car, but I literally made an Excel spreadsheet of like monthly payments, and every time I paid her, I checked it off, kind of what you do when you go pay a car. You check it off and then you drop your balance, and I would do that. So then I knew that I had proof, like, I'm paying you off, and you know, we're keeping it civil, and we're keeping it, you know, like kind of like a professional thing. Like, you lend me money and I'm going to pay you off. But some people don't do that, and some people just take advantage.
Yeah, I should have been doing shit like that, Maddie.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So material boundaries are violated when your things are destroyed or stolen, or when they are borrowed too frequently. Another material violation is the use of materials, money, and possessions to manipulate and control relationships.
I think, like, for girls, I remember when you would always borrow clothes and stuff, and you would always be like, oh, that girl's wearing my shirt again, and you would be kind of mad about it, but like at the same time, like, it was
just
whatever.
ask for it back.
Yeah, but also like, this has happened to me in the past, where people have stolen stuff, like, without me knowing, clothes, and then they like post things in it or do stuff, and then you're like, oh, thank you. Like, don't steal from people.
Yeah,
that's just my word of advice right there.
It sounds like great advice.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Now we're gonna talk about how to set a boundary. So name your limits. Like, make sure you know where you stand. Make sure you know where, like, when you've put too much out, like when you've gone too much.
Yeah. And just like write it down if you have to. Just be like, okay, this makes me totally uncomfortable. I cannot do this. This is it. Okay. So, and then tune into your feelings. When someone acts in a way that makes you feel uncomfortable, that's a cue to us that they may be violating or crossing a boundary. Be direct. So make sure that they know, like, hey, you can't do this.
Give yourself permission to set a boundary. Don't feel guilty. And I know it's really hard to say, like, don't feel guilty, because we're all human and we all feel guilty usually. But know that, like, at the end of the day, you're the one living your life. Yep. And you're the one that's feeling those feelings. So you need to give yourself some grace. Yep. And say it's okay to set these boundaries.
Practice self-awareness. Honor and be aware of your feelings. Don't just push it under the rug and just let things slide. That can, like, bite you in the ass, I feel like. Make self-care a priority. Don't be afraid of putting yourself first.
I think that's hard for people who are always giving, like, because a lot of people are like that. They just want to give and please, and I'm like that to like a fault. Like, I love pleasing other people, but I am very good at, like, realizing, like, I need to stay home, or, like, I need to study, or I need to do, like, just sit at home in my pajamas.
I'm really bad about that. Like, I feel so bad when somebody invites me over and I'm just like, no, or like, having kids is great because sometimes you just use them as an excuse.
Like, I can't, my kids are sick or something. Yeah,
but I shouldn't have to feel like that. Like,
you should just be like, you know,
like,
what,
no,
tonight I'm really tired and I just want to stay home or something.
Yeah.
Make sure you seek support. So make sure if you're setting boundaries, like, and you're really having an issue, or you're really feeling guilty, or you're just kind of having a hard time, like, getting over that little hump and setting that boundary, make sure that you are okay with, like, find someone to talk about it with. If it's your partner or with someone else, like, just make sure that you're fine, like, talking about it, because you don't want to keep it bottled up either.
Right. Be assertive. Make sure to follow through with what you want to say to them. Start small. It takes practice. I know I need practice. Boundaries has definitely been hard to learn, and how to set them over the years.
I think it's important, like, don't just say, like, oh, I need to cut everyone out of my life, or, oh, I need to just ghost these people, or especially if it's someone that you have been friends with. Make sure you start small. Like, just say, you know what, like, I really enjoy being your friend, but maybe we don't go do this certain thing, or maybe we don't hang out all the time, or maybe we don't talk about these certain topics, and just starting that way. And then if it is someone that you really don't want to be friends with anymore, or you feel that they're toxic or whatever, you don't have anything in common, or whatever the case may be, just say, you know, like, I'm really just feeling this way and I just need a couple days or something to, like, just have my own time, and then figure out from there.
I've definitely had issues with people violating my boundaries in the past. Like, I don't want this, or, hey, my kid's allergic to this, don't give him this. And then, like, that's happened a lot, and I just have to let them know, like, you cannot do that, because at the end of the night, like, he's having a tummy ache or whatever it is. And then I set a new boundary, and they'll go ahead and cross that one, and then I'll set a new boundary that's even more, say, restricting, and they will cross that, like, try and do that one. Like, they're just trying to break that wall constantly. And if those kind of people are just constantly doing that, being bad for you, then you don't need those kind of people.
Yeah, you just have to say, like, you know, at this time, like, you just keep pushing, like, I'm trying, and I don't think they realize, like, you're still trying to have a relationship with them.
Yeah, like, I've tried so hard.
You're just trying to, like, make boundaries that you feel comfortable with, and that still keep you happy, and, you know, are good for you and your kids and your family, and they just keep pushing it and breaking it, then they are not respecting, you know, your life, your choices.
Like, those are my children. My number one is to just make sure they're taken care of, making sure that they don't have to go through what I've went through in the past. I don't want that for them. I don't want them to have anxiety in the future or like feel bad about things that they've done. So just make sure that you do practice those boundaries and make sure that you're knowing how important those boundaries are.
And also make sure that you're respecting other people's boundaries.
Yeah.
I know for me it's really hard sometimes when like friends put boundaries, or someone like you thought, or like someone that I thought was a friend, and then they just like cut me off or something, just because I'm such like it really hurts my feelings. Like that's just the type of person I am. Like I always feel personal, like I always take things personally, and I always feel like they're attacking me, or they're, it's because I was a bad friend, or because they don't like me, or because of this. But really it could just be other reasons, or it could just be that they're trying to find themselves, or they're, and so like I think I need like something for me to work on, and probably others, is just like respecting other people's boundaries, because at the end of the day you don't know what other people are dealing with or going through.
Yep. And we're going to go ahead and give you this TikTok help. So follow She Fast Journey. She has a TikTok essentially dedicated to helping people set boundaries, giving you tips and tricks. The link to her TikTok will be below. And then we're going to go ahead and do our wine review, Maddison. So what do you think about our wine?
It kind of started a little on the drier side, but once we kind of started drinking it and stuff, it was really good. I liked the berry flavor.
Yeah.
Like you could taste the berry flavor. I actually really liked it. It definitely would be good with with dinner.
Yeah.
With like a
meal. A steak or something.
Yeah. It would be really good. I really liked it.
I felt like it had like a jelly aftertaste. Does that make sense? Like a raspberry jelly aftertaste. Yeah. But it does start off really dry. And I just want to thank everyone again for listening to our podcast today. Feel free to reach out to me or Maddie in our group on Facebook. The goal in the group is just to create conversations and discuss different topics that you find interesting, where you can vent to people that understand you and just laugh. Before we go, what do you want to rate the wine?
I'm gonna give it like a 6.
I would say same, 6.
Yeah.
It was good.
It was good.
Yeah. There will be links in the description below to some of the things we have talked about, the wine, and also a link to our group on Facebook. Feel free to join. Our podcast as of now, it's going to be weekly, every once in a while.
Yeah. We'll always post on our Facebook if we're like have to delay it or something, but it's pretty much every Monday. So just be on the lookout for that.
Yeah. And go ahead and give us some topics ideas too, because we keep going back and forth on what we want to do.
Just let us know what you guys are wanting to hear, maybe some things that we could do differently or better, or just any tips and tricks, or just even comment how you guys feel about boundaries, or and then we can always talk to you guys about them and about any questions or anything, or try and give our advice. But just make sure that you guys subscribe, and then if you would just go follow our Facebook page, and you can follow us on Instagram and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So just make sure that you guys subscribe. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for listening.